Hey everybody, welcome back to Podcast Lost in Space. I have it noted as episode 28. It might be episode 27 since we missed the first episode of this month, and I don't know if I updated my Google Calendar or not. But regardless, welcome to the final episode of Podcast Lost in Space. I think we've already posted that our blog was ending this month anyway.
I don't know.
But regardless, our blog is ending this month. I think we've talked about it on the podcast as well. Simply, and kind of across the board, all of this stuff, if it wasn't that long ago, 28 episodes isn't terribly long, but all the way back then, I started this, I really wanted to see if we could do this, and I wanted to learn what it took to put together a podcast and a website and run it and see what it... Like, I wanted to learn the processes. I wasn't interested in making the podcast big and making, myself famous or rich, although those would have been nice. I wasn't really worried about that kind of stuff. So when we started this, it kind of all started as just a grand, I want to see how this works, and I need people to help me put that together. And it's a learning experience on what it takes to run a team and all these other things. But over the last few months, we've been missing podcasts. On our end, we've been having a really hard time getting people scheduled into the podcasts. And we've not been getting the response back from people about what days worked for people that weren't the day we record, which is Sunday at 1:30, which is a weird time. I don't happen to do anything on that time, but it's a weird time, and I knew that. But nobody else got back. It was really hard to get responses from Ryan and Alyssa and Doc, when he was actually cared to be a part of the whole thing, about what a better day would be. And so
to get a response from me too, because
yeah,
I'm fairly flexible right now, so I was like, well, whatever works for other people as long as it fits in my schedule, whatever.
Yeah, and that's us. That's me, learning about team scheduling and all these other things that need to be worked on. But as you guys saw, Doc dropped out of the podcast months ago, and I talked to him about it, and he just decided he didn't like the way we were doing this podcast, and he admitted this, instead of doing the adult thing and mentioning it and talking to the team about why he didn't like things, he decided to kind of just go quiet and disappear. He knows, he I was talking to him, he's like, yeah, I know, I messed up. But so, we lost Doc relatively early, and then it's been hard to get, especially Ryan and Alyssa, on the podcast. They're busy, and I know, Newman, you're not super big on talking about your life, right?
Yeah, it's not that I'm not really that busy most days, but Sundays I always end up, booked.
And you weren't keen, you weren't keen on talking about life as much as... and part of that was I picked a weird topic for the podcast because I thought it would be weird. I thought it'd be kind of interesting to try that niche, but all the people whose lives are on fire and who would have the good stories about their lives being on fire, I learned really quickly, are the people you can't rely on to put together a podcast around. So I ended up having to get together all my friends whose shit was together, which wasn't quite the point of the podcast originally as I thought of it. So that was a weird bit of this. But so I've made the decision a few hours ago, really, but over the last few months, I've kind of known this is going to be the last episode of Podcast Lost in Space. I'm going to keep doing a podcast. I might try to do a tech podcast with Newman. If I can find one other person who I can reliably... I want to do a gaming podcast, because if you get me talking about video games for too long, for actually talking about it, I can go for hours. There's stuff that I want to keep going, but as life gets busy, I'm in my master's now. Senny's about to be really in her master's.
PhD.
Or, sorry, Senny's about to be in her PhD. Both of those lives are about to get busy. By the way, Senny, your mic's on the headphones.
Yes, I found it. This isn't my gear, okay? I'm not my boyfriend.
Oh god, she's much louder now. Let me lower
I was
your
going to say,
volume.
I got a new job.
Ryan got it, yeah, so things have kind of changed, and this started as me... What I know now is next time I start a podcast, there's a whole bunch of shit I can set up in about 20 minutes instead of the hours it took me to figure out how to get it to work.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to run a blog on the side of the podcast. I need to build my own personal website and blog that's under my name, because that's something everybody should have, and I don't think any of us do.
I don't use Facebook. Why would I have a blog?
Well, not a blog, but like a website with work and stuff. It's something that it's kind of like heavily recommended, and I don't have it. So I'm gonna do things like that, kind of build that part of this whole thing. I also learned I freaking hate WordPress. WordPress is really hard to design anything with.
It's built on PHP. Anything involving PHP sucks.
So next time around, I might try, I don't know, anything else. Even Blogspot, going way back when, things like that. But it's been fun. I'm incredibly frustrated with certain people, like my sister and Newman, for the idea of, I'm asking for an hour of time, which is nothing because you'll dick around on the internet for 3 if you're not careful. But also I know it's a weird hour of time, so it's been this weird back and forth where I'm frustrated about it. But I learned a lot. I figured out how to set up a lot. Doc learned how to build his own podcasts from us. And all the stuff is going to stay up. I'm going to leave the site up because I think it's super useful. And also I now use it to find recipes that I've written. And my dad has the hosting space. He's not going to notice it.
Until he listens to this podcast.
No, he already knows. Mom was yelling at me about me deciding that we were done with this 5 minutes ago. Because we have a few people.
But we've been talking about that for like a month, too.
Yeah, and I've been getting yelled at about it by her for a while. Where I've been like, I don't think this is going to keep going. We've got some people, like Ryan, I know your dad listens to this. My mom had to tell your dad to listen to this, but, and my mom and dad and my grandparents like this kind of stuff, like listening, because it's a window into our lives. But I think it's a window that doesn't work anymore. Not for what we thought it would be.
Well, also not with just all the changes and stuff that's going on. Because, we didn't really prepare for, Alyssa's in a different time zone, and we didn't really
think about it.
We didn't really make sure that was totally and 100% fine. We didn't, there was just a lot of stuff that we could have done to make sure that it worked better, but we didn't. And also, frankly, we bit off way more than we could chew, which kind of took a bite out of all of us, I feel like.
Yeah.
I know it did for me at least, but, I was kind of the cat herder, so.
And I came into this with a, there's a whole bunch of stuff there's podcasts I need to listen to and a bunch of information I need to listen to, because we didn't come into this planning to grow this. I figured that was something we would figure out as we went, or we would have to end this and not, and that's what we're going to do. Next time around, I'm going to, whatever I start doing, my plan will be to market and grow it better. Like, my plan, that one will be the very serious attempt. This was kind of the ranked beginners learning thing. Which is totally, I'm like, that's what I wanted it to be. It did its job, and it lasted way longer than I thought it would.
There was 15 weeks where we did it every week.
We were really good for a very long time, and one of the things I ran into was it came down to, for the most part, it was me coming up with ideas or getting some really weird ideas from people that I was like, that doesn't... Batman versus Superman? Really? And learning from that, being like, well, that's not going to work. Things like that aren't, and so next time we're, and we never had a theme that we could kind of drive along as easily. Little things like that. The whole point, I learned a stupid amount from all of this. I learned how to edit audio a little bit. I didn't do a lot of editing, but I learned a bit about editing audio. And I learned that Sunny's a very good partner, but she'll kill you if you're not on her level.
Well, if you expect a lot from me, then I expect a lot from you.
Which is fair. And I've learned that I'm bad at some of my own communication. You know,
Well,
I'm
and
not
that's
the
why
best
occasionally
communicator.
I pulled you aside and was like, hey, we need to talk about this because
Yeah.
this, whatever it was not working, or hey, this is working. How do we get this to continue?
Yeah.
So I'm glad that I was a good partner for this, even though we had way too many meetings of like, God damn it, why is this one thing like just not? Because
And
a lot of weeks it came down to you and me trying to figure out a topic before the podcast started, just because like, you know.
so it's going to be one of those things, anything I do from now on, and I'm definitely going to do something, because I like podcasts. I like having a record of my own thoughts that is on the web, which is a little arrogant, but I like the idea of going back and showing my kids, 20 years from now, like, look at this stupid thing I did.
You think the internet's...
You do this.
I was going to say, you still think the internet's going to be a thing in 20 years?
There'll be an archive of it somewhere.
Maybe.
Guaranteed. And this stuff's all on YouTube, so yeah, this stuff will exist forever. Or at least a really damn long time. But, so all of the stuff is going to be, I'm going to take it and turn it into something else. Don't know what that is yet. I started my master's. I want to at least get a feel for that before I decide to do a tech podcast or a gaming podcast. Both of which are things I really need to do because I can talk about those for hours if I'm not careful.
I was going to say that we did one podcast kind of on the Apple FBI case, and that went on. I rambled for like 20 minutes there.
Yeah, which is where I realized, like, you're horrible. You didn't want to do what we've been doing, but you were definitely. I'm like, I need to use you for. We could totally do a tech podcast together.
Oh, absolutely.
That's part of it too. Is I need to. Anything I do from now on is gonna be me and another person. It's gonna be me and one other person. It might be me and Newman for tech. I don't have a gamer I can talk to really, because I can't work with Joey. I love him every time he's a good guest. He's good at this.
He's a great guest.
But he's my little brother in some ways and my older brother in other ways, and I can't work with him. I love Alyssa. I want to do stuff with Alyssa too because she is great at all of this. This is stuff that she loves. She really likes it. She's busy. She likes doing it though. But if I do anything with her, she's a guest or it's me and her. I think paring it down to one friend, one person you can confidently work with.
Yeah.
I'd do something with Sunny, but she's gonna be too busy for it.
We'll see we'll see how grad school treats me.
Yeah. Sunny's about to enter a very weird time, so I don't want to, but
weird,
I would do
weird. That's the word.
a very busy time. I'd do something with Sunny, like one-on-one kind of thing. Yeah. If we could find a topic. And the other thing is that's the other thing. We were a really general podcast, which was kind of the idea. I still haven't really figured out exactly how I wanted it all to go, because I think it would be really interesting to have, I still think the idea is really good, because 20-somethings are in a very different place from 30-somethings, 40-somethings, and hell, our parents. Mm-hmm. Our generation's a very different world. You hear all this, the cliches about the job market being garbage and shit, and it's true, and we're dealing with that in a very different way. We're also a very socially liberal generation, by and large. The U.S. political race going on, even young Republicans are, the polls show young Republicans don't give a shit about gay marriage. They don't give a shit about, they're like, let people do what they want to do. It's a very different generation from the older generations.
Well, but you can also see that just by looking at the novels that we enjoy reading.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but so I still think, there's an idea here, but I don't know where that idea is. I don't know what the, finding out where that point is. We never did it. And I think one day we'll find it.
Yeah.
But
maybe after my PhD I'll be too busy with the job and who knows what else.
Well, yeah, or you come in as the we need somebody to give us the psych perspective on whatever else I managed to actually cobble together and run. I think it would be a lot of
maybe I'll be the unspoken manager staff.
or the occasional guest, right?
Who knows? Maybe.
Things like that. But yeah, that's the story. It's been interesting. I've learned a lot. One of the things I've learned is I'm really bad at communicating unless you're like one of the 5 people I talk to every day.
Which, oddly enough, I'm actually not one of those people, and we've actually communicated pretty well.
Yeah.
Occasionally
Newman is one of those people.
And be like, hey, you.
And it's just that translates into I'm really bad at remembering to do my writing, and I'm really worried about this online masters that I'm in, which, by the way, is so far kind of a joke because I'm learning basic HTML and CSS, stuff I learned in 7th grade. But because I'm really bad at remembering, I don't communicate with on forums and stuff naturally. I have to force myself to do it. It's something I don't think about doing.
I was going to say, I took a class where there was 5 of us, maybe 6 of us, and we still had to communicate in a forum for homework. And that was a mess. I hated that.
So weird.
And
I don't like online classes.
It's been something...
It was an in-class, so continue.
No, it was something I think would have been interesting to bring up at some point during this is I don't integrate into online communities. Even communities I want to integrate to. There's writing communities online and stuff, and I've just never done that. Like, even when I wanted to do it, I just fell off doing it or whatever. The only time I ever really focused was a forum full of my friends, and we were role-playing.
Mm-hmm.
And that was about the only. That's my and that's really weird because that's the classic geek story: is you meet people online and you make friends with them, and And I just never found that as something I do, which has been a weird case. And so the fact that we were able to run this is amazing. I'm worried about my online program though because it is forum integration.
You'll figure it out.
Good news is it's because I did spend $2,000 on it. Oh my god, I have to learn APA reference next week. I came to a master's degree expecting not to have to learn how to fucking write an annotated bibliography again. Guess what I have to do next week? To learn how to write a fucking annotated bibliography again. I'm so done with that.
Writing. Who does that?
It's you.
We never did get that Facebook post from you, Ryan.
I started it and I got really far in it, and then I don't know what happened. It just kind of fell off.
I still want to see that from you, regardless of whether or not we're running the site, because I think it would be really good. I have to install all sorts of weird extensions to my freaking Chrome for this program.
Yeah.
Master's degrees. I'm also really pissed that I have to write an annotated bibliography.
Don't get into programming. You don't have to write ever.
I can't program, though.
Anyway, I should probably head out.
Yes, Sonny, you go take care of your diseased boyfriend. Do you have anything else to say?
It's been a blast. It's been a unique experience sometimes feeling like I literally need a whip to get people to write, a page of stuff on a topic.
That'd be me.
No, actually, Ryan, whenever I got you assigned on something and you had a day where it was you owe me this, you got your shit done. You were fine. It's been interesting. It's been odd, but honestly, it's been a unique twist on essentially research. So
yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, it's not it's kind of what I have to do as a head researcher a lot of the time anyway, so it's not that weird, but it's been different.
Both me and Sunny can happily put on our resumes that we have team lead experience now.
If I have team lead experience already without this.
I mean, yeah, but you get extra, right?
I guess, maybe. I don't know if I count that. But yeah, no, it's been good, and now it's time for me to go take care of the other one in my life.
Bye.
Bye, guys. Toodles.
Toodles. Yeah, Newman, do you have anything else to add?
No. I was one of those that kind of dropped off halfway through this.
You were.
So I don't have a lot to say.
Yeah, Alyssa's in the next room over, but she's tired, and now she's mad at me because I was like, well, I'm done with this, and now she's mad. So she didn't want to come say bye.
Well, yeah, now that she finally has time.
Yeah, well, and also I was just like, well, I'm fucking killing I'm like, I'm done with this, and she's like, which totally is fair, but also was just kind of the way it worked out. Yeah, we'll see what happens. Me and Newman will probably pop back up somewhere. The only people who follow this are family, basically, so you'll see it on Facebook. I definitely think me and Ryan tech podcast, especially since we can our scheduling flexibility will be way more if there's just 2 people. Scheduling 5 people is a nightmare. I've known that for years, but it's still a nightmare. Yeah. Thanks for everybody who watched and all the family who supported it and took the time and stuff. I really appreciate it. It made what we were doing that much more fun to know that other people were actually seeing it and we weren't talking into a void. Not that I minded the void as much as I think some other people did. But for the last time, adios. At least the last time here.